Welcome back to the West Georgia Gridiron Podcast. I'm your host, Mason Taylor, and as always, I'm joined by my father, my co-host, and my producer, Mark Taylor, and this is Week 3.
Yeah, welcome everybody to Week 3. We wanted to start off a little different today for those that may have missed the Central visiting Oxford Yellow Jackets last week with just seconds left. I think 20 seconds or something left in the game once they scored. If you didn't get to see it, we've got a short clip for you. Wanted to share this. Yeah, 21 seconds left in the game. So, Mason, what was it about that particular play that was a well-designed play?
Well, I think using Jonas Walton, the 4-star running back, letting him show his versatility, he kind of played more of a tight end role in that play. In the past, and even this season, he's shown that he's not just a running back, that he's a receiving back as well. I mean, he led Central in receiving yards last year. So right there, I mean, he was in motion, came back across, and it seemed like they thought he was trying to block, and so they kind of just pushed him aside, and he's left wide open on the edge. And actually, Keenan Britt, their 3-star linebacker, kind of right at the end there, kind of came through right at the last second, and J.R. Harris got rid of it just before Britt could get to him. And, I mean, with 21 seconds left, got on the board, and Oxford had to get their ball back with only 20 seconds left at home, down 3.
Yeah, so they had somebody in the backfield. So the guy comes through, doesn't worry about Walton. So he figures that he would leave him alone, and then he sneaks out. And then they were covering the wide receiver, and of course drew them off, came back to the middle, and then he went to the outside corner. That was beautiful how that was designed. But anyway, today in our episode, we're actually going to be introducing a fan zone. This will be fan sharing content, fan submitted content, and some things that were submitted by influencers that were here local and around the state that follow high school football. Power rankings, local and around the state, game of the week, and then Mason's matchups, of course, that he'll be previewing all 9 games. So let's get into it, Mason. ITG Next Georgia, thank you for submitting this online, but if you're following them, you may have seen this already. Top 10 performers of the week. Now, this is statewide, and Mason, who stands out here? And I wanted your commentary on maybe some of these teams that some of our teams here in West Georgia may be facing sometime during the season, and why is this important?
Well, first I'm going to start off with Noonan, because Noonan, the game that they're talking about here is actually when they broke a very long losing streak against East Coweta, who is a region opponent of Carrollton. Obviously, Noonan's down in 5A, so Carrollton doesn't have to worry about playing Noonan unless it's non-region. But they ended up, it was a very high-scoring game. I believe it was like 60-55. It was up there. And Brody Campbell, obviously, the quarterback for Noonan, had a stellar game. And actually, Noonan was down by 17 in the fourth quarter, I believe. But, Noonan and Milton both could, if Villa Rica were to end up in the playoffs, could potentially be an opponent there just because they're both in 5A.
Mr. Bailey at Milton, right?
Right. Norcross, Buford, McEachern, all 6A teams, so Carrollton could potentially see them in the playoffs. We saw Buford last year in the playoffs in the semifinals, so that could always be a possibility. But then really the big one on the screen there is Kareem Hughley, the junior quarterback for Gainesville. They're coming off of a dominant win against Moody, Alabama at home. I believe it's 49-7. Carrollton plays Gainesville on the road in 2 weeks, so that's a big one right there. But everybody else on here doesn't seem like any other teams around here might be able to face. Maybe Berrien. I'm not too familiar with them as a team, but a lot of 6A schools on here, a couple 5A. I believe Peach County's in 3A. Hebron Christian, obviously, a private school down there in the 1 to 3A
Well, thank you,
area.
ITG Next, for those top 10 performers from week 2. And then we wanted to make sure we give a shout out also to the guys at Hometown Sports here in West Georgia. They want you to know that on Friday night, they'll be actually in Staples Stadium in Heard County High School. They'll be set up at 5 o'clock. So if you're attending that game, then stop by and say hi to them. Who knows? It may even put you on the air, try to get you to say hi, or maybe some of your feedback after the game. And then here's one of my favorite pictures as well. Brian Carmichael, who is a sports journalist and photographer and videographer for sports here. I know he does for Carrollton High School. He says it's still one of his top 3 photos. And Mason, when was this game actually?
That looks like Michael Braden. So this looks like it was 2022. And if I'm not mistaken, that would have been the game on the road. It looks like they're playing South Paulding. So that would have been the game on the road, Juju's freshman year, the year the Trojans went and lost to Mill Creek in the state championship.
Pause. I got a freaking ant on the ball. Show up on the screen. People are like, what the crap's that? Let's go back. Right there. All right, and then this is one of my favorite pictures as well. This was submitted and taken by Brian Carmichael, and a lot of you know him here in West Georgia. He says on social media this is still one of his top 3 photos. Mason, when was this game?
Let's see, that looks like Michael Braden there, senior linebacker for Carrollton at the time. And if I'm not mistaken, this looks like it was probably from the 2022 season when Carrollton lost in the 7A state championship to Mill Creek, and this looks like when they were on the road taking on South Paulding. Yeah. That was actually a very tight game. I believe it was probably 1 score at the end of it, but that was Juju Lewis's freshman year. And so, yeah, it would have been, 3 years ago, I think?
Well, many of you follow and appreciate all the photos and videography that Brian does for our local high school sports and games. So I appreciate you submitting that. And then we've got GPB football Friday nights here. Top 10. This is their power rankings around the state. So we're going to start with Class 6A. Of course, Carrollton stands out as number 4, Mason. Is that right? Should it be higher? Should it be lower?
I guess they base this off of not only season performance, but also, I guess, potential. But really the one on here that I don't like, and everybody, if you've listened to at least one of the past episodes, is, I don't like Douglas County at all. They haven't beaten us in 60 years, so I really don't understand how they can be above Carrollton. But other than that,
you don't think they've earned the number 3 spot?
No.
Was it the strength of the first 2 games they've played?
Well, not. I guess you could say that necessarily. Week 1 they played a pretty boring game against North Gwinnett. Neither team scored in the second half. It was like 21-7.
Look at those top 3 though: Grayson, Buford, Douglas County. We've got to face Douglas County the last game of the season for Carrollton. But as far as Buford, we could see them in the playoffs and then match up again with Grayson in the state, right?
Yeah, last year Carrollton played Grayson in the state championship. They played Buford in the semifinal. They played Douglas County in the region championship. Almost had to play them in the state championship for a rematch. Played Valdosta in the second round. So, yeah,
there is some strong teams.
Yeah.
That top 10 list in 6A, one of the top in the United States as far as second or third toughest conference to play in or class to play in the United States outside of California. It normally goes back and forth between Texas and California. And Georgia. And I think we've got number 2 right now, or at least last year. And then we don't have anybody in 5A right now. It could be Villarica, so maybe we'll see how that season plays out for them. But they didn't make the top 10 list right now. But Class 4A, what do you see here? We've got Central Lions.
Yeah, Central and Cambridge break the top 10. Central actually lost to Cambridge in the second round last year, so them being a spot ahead, I guess, is kind of a testament to how Central is. But I think we'll see how the season goes from here on out, because obviously that one win against Oxford's really what they're basing this mainly off of. Obviously that Spalding game's not going to tell them too much.
Yep.
But I like them at 9. You could even argue that they could be a little bit higher, maybe in the 7 or 8 spot, but I like them at 9. I don't necessarily disagree with that.
How did Benedictine get down to 8? Shouldn't they be much higher, or is it? I don't know what's going on there, but we'll see how that plays out. Class A, Division 1. Of course, we've got Division 1 and 2 teams here in West Georgia, but we've got Heard County at 7.
No Temple. That interesting. No Temple. But yeah, Heard County at 7. I think they are a top 5 team. Honestly, you could even argue they're a top 3 team, but 7, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I would like to see them at least top 5.
Fellowship Christian came in and they beat a team here that was a tough loss for as well.
And then in number 9 there, you see Rabun County. Bremen has to face them in the upcoming weeks. That'll be a non-region game for them.
Okay.
And Thomasville, number 2 right there. Temple actually lost to Thomasville in the second round last year, so that some familiar teams on this list for sure. Yeah, they take on the Temple Tigers in their non-region game.
All right, and then at Class A Division II, we've got Bowden at number 4.
Right, coming into the season, obviously, there was no argument against them being the number 1 team. Obviously, after that Week 1 loss, that put them down there in that 4 and 5 spot. Obviously, they've kind of redeemed themselves just a little bit with that Macon County performance. But Lincoln County at 1 of the most decorated programs in history. So they're top. Metter, who Bowden saw in the playoffs last year on the road. Clinch County, who I believe Bowden saw on the road, or maybe at home. Brooks County was the runner-up, so they're at 5. So that's interesting. The top 2 teams that finished last year are at the 4 and 5 spot. There you see Manchester at 9. That's a region opponent of Bowden and Mount Zion. And then also receiving votes, didn't make the top 10. Very close, though, Tryon, who they're actually coming to visit the Temple Tigers this week.
Friday night, that's right. All right, we'll talk about that game here in just a minute. But you are at Week 3 previews. And so, Mason, we've got games of the week, and I want your comment. This is your game of the week right here, Temple Tigers and Tryon Bulldogs. You just mentioned that. GPB will have a web game, and so if you want to catch that at some point, you can watch Northside at Warden Robins will be going at it. But what do you like about this game, particularly with Tryon?
Well, I've been saying I like Temple at the 10 or 9 spot, even maybe the 8 spot. But really that 9 or 10 spot in 1A Division I for a couple weeks now, probably even before the season started. And really the reason I think this is the game of the week, a lot of people are going to say Bowden Bremen. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I think it's more of a historical rivalry. I think that's going to be not the 79th meeting between the two teams, so it's almost an 80-year rivalry. But it's not. I don't think it's going to be as competitive as a game as this is going to be. I think this will be the most competitive game this week, and I know, I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, well, what about Carrollton and Rome?"
It's on the road this week. We'll be there.
Or what about Heard County and Murphy? Because that was a close.
How about my game of the week, Bowden versus Bremen? Now look, and we've got some social shares. We've got fans of Bowden that they agree with me. I think Bowden's going to take this. Christy McClellan says, "Let's go Red Devils." And then G.W. Calhoun, look, he didn't even say words, just puts 2 colors, black and red. Enough said. But Mason, why did you not pick this game? Well, this is a huge rivalry locally.
No, I just explained it. I think Temple and Tryon's going to be a lot more of a competitive game than Bowden and Bremen. And while we will see what Bremen's made of mainly, we'll see what Bowden can do. I think that Temple Tryon game is going to really show us where Temple is as a team, because Tryon got destroyed in that scrimmage against Heard County. So Temple, especially having Heard County in their region, is going to be a good testament of where they are right now.
Yeah, well, let's take a break, and then we're going to come right back, and we're going to go into your games, previews, all of your analysis, and your insights. We'll be right back. All right, well, welcome back, and we are in Week 3 previews. So Mason, let's break it down. Who are you starting with this week? Are we going to start with Bowden, or we're going to go backwards again from Villarica?
No, I'm going to do it normal this time. I'm going to start off with the Red Devils.
This is one of my favorite parts of the segment, Mason. I love hearing your insights and your opinions and your preferences, but also just key players and offense, defense, strengths, weaknesses, what's going to be the key to the matchup, all that good stuff.
Well, we're going to start out with a lot of people's game of the week, your game of the week.
Yes, sir.
Arguably the biggest rivalry in West Georgia currently. The best current rivalry. There's some dormant ones. There's some dormant ones that you could argue are a lot bigger than this one. But Carrollton Central. But biggest current rivalry, a lot of ego on the line, a lot of bragging rights on the line, a lot of hatred. They call it the hate week. They call it that for a reason. But Bowden obviously started off the year with a tough loss, 26-0 on the road. They had a blowout win last week, 55-22 at home in their home opener. Bremen 70-7. Victory was against Jordan, but I think that result likely overstates their strength. So I think Bowden's profile against quality is more telling, and I expect a comfortable multi-score win for the Red Devils. But we'll start off with some key players for each team, and unless there's some stats, I'm not really going to talk too much about these guys because I want to kind of keep it moving.
And we'll cover a lot more in depth in the recap show, so you'll be able to hear maybe some breakdown on the players themselves.
But for Bowden, we'll start off with the guy that I always say you have to put him on there. I mean, he's not just the best on the team. He's obviously one of the best in this entire area. Caden Prothro, 6'6", 210-pound, 5-star senior wide receiver and tight end, Georgia commit. You have Josh Hopkins, 5'10", 175, senior quarterback. You have Lucky Bailey, 5'7", 165, junior linebacker, and he's already got 20 tackles so far this season in 2 games, so he's averaging 10 tackles a game. And then Jonah Wilson, 6'1", 225-pound, senior Samford commit. He plays tight end and defensive end. For Bremen, we have the Northern Illinois commit, Justin Faulkner. He's sitting at 6'1", 175, plays both sides of the ball as a senior, wide receiver and defensive back. Jay-Sean Jones, wide receiver and defensive back, 6'1", 155. He's a senior. They call him the Slim Reaper because he's not even 160 pounds. Carter Allen, he's a kicker. He's a kicker and the punter. 6'3", 180 as a junior. That's a big kicker right there. He's actually rated as the number 9 punter in the class of 2027 for the whole country. So congratulations to Carter for that achievement. Chase Palmer, 6 foot, 200-pound senior linebacker, and then Ryder Haynes, 6 foot, 180 senior linebacker. So that linebacking tandem. For the keys to success, though, for Bowden, which they're my favorite to win, I would say one is feed the stars. Obviously, get Prothro involved, or Caden Prothro, because there's 2 Prothros on the team, Caden and Keelan. We'll talk about Keelan later. But Caden Prothro, get him involved early, get him in those mismatches against those defensive backs. I mean, that's obviously going to open up some opportunities. But then also Josh Hopkins' dual threat ability. So far this season, he has 229 passing yards, 172 rushing yards. So he keeps those defenses honest, and he's going to need to do that against those Bremen linebackers that I just mentioned. 2, dominate the trenches. Obviously, you got some of those names on the offensive line, like a Jace Turner, like a John Harden, just a massive offensive and defensive line for Bowden, so they're going to need to control the tempo and wear them down. Defensive discipline, you've got guys like Connor Daniel and Keelan Prothro at defensive back. They got to limit those big plays against guys like Justin Faulkner, who thrive off of big plays. And when they get the ball, they score. And you can ask Mount Zion, you can ask Jordan. They do it very efficiently. And then a physical edge, obviously Lucky Bailey, we've already talked about. The junior has 20 tackles so far this season. So that linebacking core of Bowden's going to need to contain that run because there's a little freshman on Bremen. And I don't know if he's their starting running back, but I've heard some good things about him, Tavares Tucker. And he's when I saw him in the scrimmage, he's shifty, that's for sure. But they're going to need to force them into 3rd and longs. You can't let him just do whatever he wants because he's going to get out to the edge. He's kind of like a less more of like Cam Wood for Carrollton. He's like a bowling ball. Tavares Tucker, he's not that aggressive style, but he's quick and gets out to the edge like how Cam Wood does. But he's not going to be dragging defenders or anything. For Bremen, who I think's the underdog, Justin Faulkner, I'm not sure about his full stats, but I know he had 2 touches and 2 touchdowns. So very, very efficient performance against Jordan. And then, or as the Bremen announcers like to call him, Jordan. Very country up there. And then Jay-Sean Jones had a punt return touchdown. Didn't even get touched, to be honest with you. So those guys are playmakers on both sides of the ball. So if you can get those guys involved and you can hit explosive plays to them, Bowden's defense has been their biggest weakness this season so far. We've seen that. Macon County put up 3 touchdowns on them. So if those guys can get it going, then Bremen can stay in the game a little bit. Quarterback efficiency, Eli Brock's going to need to be efficient. He's 6'3", 195, so he's got some good size on him as a junior. Win special teams, obviously Carter Allen, we mentioned how good of a punter he is. So if he can get them if he can force them to have long fields, which obviously you don't want to be punting a lot, but if he can get the points on the field goals because he hit a 56-yarder against Mount Zion, so if he can do that and on punts if there should be any, get them having long fields, that's going to be very good for Bremen. And then defensive front play, you got A.J. Edmerson, who reminds me a lot size-wise of a Mike Thomas for Carrollton. I mean, that defensive line in general, along with those linebackers, going to need to clog the running lanes for guys like Joshua Chandler and Mikhail Boykin for Bowden. But my X factors of this game, I'm going to say one is going to be Bowden's depth against Bremen's stars. I mean, Bowden has multiple FBS level, and if y'all don't know what that is, Division I FBS, that's like your Georgias, your Tennessees. I mean, the big time, the best college level you can get, they have multiple guys who can go play at that level. Bremen doesn't necessarily have the depth, but they have the stars. They have the guys on the team that you know who's going to be making plays. So can Bowden's depth outwork and outplay those stars, or are those stars going to really just take over the game for Bremen? And then turnovers and special teams, obviously, Bremen's only realistic path to winning this game, in my opinion, is if they have 2 to 3 turnovers, and if they can get punt return touchdowns or kick return touchdowns, whatever you can get, blocked kicks, whatever. But I think if Bowden plays clean, it's going to be a pretty nasty game. But I think the bottom line here, Bowden's balanced attack and trench dominance should carry the day. I think Bremen has the kind of playmakers who can make it interesting early, but I think Bowden's physicality at the end of the day are going to likely wear them down over 4 quarters. So with that being said, I have the Bowden Red Devils beating the Bremen Blue Devils 41-13 at home.
That's a higher score than I thought. But look, I think Bowden is going to win this. I didn't have them that high, but I do like your prediction. So we'll see. Monday's show, come back, and we'll see how close he was.
The next game I'm going to talk about is the Carrollton Trojans. They go on the road for the first time this season as they take on a Rome team who's coming off of a bye week.
And my boy Cam Wood, who you finally on the show Monday gave some love, some mention to, well, because he actually put up the numbers. This guy right here impresses me. So is he going to be your big X factor for this Rome game?
We'll see.
Okay.
Carrollton, they put up 48 against Woodward Academy. They put up 41 against Columbia. Those are 2 solid opponents. Rome gave up 48 to Creekside, who, as y'all saw in those rankings, I believe Creekside's the top 3 team in 4A as of right now. So that's not like they gave it up to nobody, but they were up 21-0 and still ended up losing by 20 at home. So I think a higher scoring game fits the narrative for this game.
Okay.
But for Rome, they have Darnell Collins. He's a Georgia Tech 3-star athlete. He plays defensive back and wide receiver. He's committed to Georgia Tech. He's kind of tall and lanky, but he has that mismatch ability like Prothro does just because of his size. J.J. Winston, another wide receiver, another 3-star wide receiver. He's also committed to Georgia Tech. Go Jackets. So his speed kind of complements Collins. You have Nasir Jones, 6'5", 300-pound senior offensive lineman. He's committed to Coastal Carolina. You have Aiden McPherson, 5'11", 175-pound junior quarterback. He's a dual threat guy. And then you have Dash Kennebrew, 6'1", senior defensive end, and he's kind of that key edge defender for the Wolves. But for Carrollton, you have Ryan Mosley, 4-star Georgia commit wide receiver. He's averaging nearly 30 yards per catch right now. Had the first
play of the game, had that long pass touchdown from C.J. Cypher. That was my dynamic duo of the week.
And, Mosley's averaging nearly 30 yards per catch right now. You have Dorian Barney, 4-star senior defensive back committed to Michigan. He's actually going to visit Michigan, I believe, for their first game coming up. But he's going to be definitely tested by Collins and Winston. You have C.J. Gamble, 3-star linebacker committed to Georgia Tech. You have Caden Spratling, 3-star senior linebacker committed to Memphis. You have Mason Holtzclaw, 3-star senior quarterback. And then you have C.J. Cypher, 6'2", 190 pounds. So he's gotten a little bit bigger, 6'2", 190 freshman quarterback. And they had that 1-2 punch. They had that dual quarterback system. Holtzclaw's more of a runner. C.J. more of a passer. You have Cam Wood, 5'9", 200-pound senior running back. He's averaging 9 yards per carry, and he also has 3 touchdowns in just 2 games. You have 4-star sophomore offensive tackle Quelly Fielder, And then my X factor for Carrollton, it's not Cam Wood like you would hope, but I think it's going to be Tyler Boyd, 5'11", 180, sophomore defensive back. And I'll explain why. Dorian Barney's likely going to be matched up against Collins or Winston. So that leaves one of them open. So if he's against Winston, Collins will be open. If Collins is covered by Barney, then Winston will be open. So the second best guy is Tyler Boyd. So he's going to
come through, yeah.
As a 5'11 sophomore, you're going to be either going up against a 6'4 or 6'3 senior who are 3 stars. They're ACC level talent. So he's got a lot on his plate, but I think if he can shut it down, if he can play at the best visibility and kind of do what Barney does against whatever receiver he's going against, I think it's going to be very good for Carrollton defensively. One less thing they have to worry about. But Tyler Boyd, it's going to be, regardless of if he does well or not, it's definitely going to be a good test for him early on in his career to be able to go up against a guy like Darnell Collins or Jeremy Winston. So
yeah, I did see some improvements over the first game, and last game was definitely better in the backfield than defense, but we still got to get that tighter, though. These boys are going to start from here on out. It does not get easy because they're going to start challenging that, and they know where those weaknesses. I mean, they're young players. They're freshmen and sophomore players. Don't have any junior class in there, so in that position, so that could be a test this week for sure. But you like this stadium? I like going to Rome. Back view of the city and all that good stuff. But you're actually going to be in the booth again with the Trojan Nation Network, and so you'll be spotting, you'll be helping with production, and maybe hopefully calling games again.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd, another thing I'm going to add on him is he's also shown how valuable he is on special teams. He had a special teams block. He also had a pick six, which is not special teams, but he's been very, dynamic on both sides on 2 different phases of the game, and he's only a sophomore, which is, I think they should give him his ranking. I think he should be at least a 3-star right now. But keys to success for Rome, established quarterback rhythm early. Obviously, McPherson had a 28-yard and a 13-yard rushing touchdown against Creekside. They have a big wide receiver advantage. O-line dominance, they're going to need to dominate because you got guys like C.J. Gamble and Caden Spratling who are going to be all in that backfield, if not, and even Zakai Hilton. So. And then defensive containment, obviously, with guys like Cam Wood running against you, you're going to need to contain him. And they have guys like...
I saw his touchdown, Mason. One guy is trying to tackle him up high. The other guy, I think he kind of dove towards his legs, but he kind of put a juke move on him. And so he's a tough guy to bring down.
And then Carrollton, their keys to success, I think one is going to be their quarterback efficiency and protection. Obviously, they have that 1-2 punch with Holtzclaw and Cypher. So I think... they're gonna be key to keeping Rome's defense honest. I think obviously you have 2 different quarterbacks you got to prepare for, right? So I think if they can be efficient and just get the job done, I think Rome's gonna be in some trouble defensively. Also, you got to spread the weapons. You got guys like Ryan Mosley and your Peyton Zachary's, but you also got guys like Kieris Miller, who's only a sophomore. He only has 2 receptions so far this season. One of them was the first touchdown of the season against Woodward Academy on that wheel route. But yeah, he plays wide receiver and tight end. But you also got Rontre Welch. I mean, you got so many guys offensively as weapons that they need to spread them effectively because Rome's defensive backs are going to come prepared. I mean, for sure.
Do you think this is going to be a Carrollton offense against a Rome defense, or is it an offense?
I think it's gonna. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be a one-sided thing. I don't think that Carrollton's offense is necessarily going to go up against a Rome better defense because Rome's defense still gave up 48 points.
Shootout on offense, just trade points all night long.
We'll see.
Okay.
And then linebacker dominance, obviously we talked about Gamble and Spratling. You also got other guys like Shin McMillan. McMillan was in the backfield a lot against Columbia. And then special teams X factors, obviously Tyler Boyd, Shin McMillan, guys that we've already talked about. They've been pretty key on special teams getting those turnovers, mainly in that Woodward Academy game. But matchup notes, I think these are the biggest things to watch out for in this game. Rome's wide receivers versus Carrollton's defensive backs, and I can't stress it enough. That's really going to be it because they don't also have those
making me nervous, Mason. It's making me nervous.
They don't have just those 2 3-star senior wide receivers, but they also got a guy named Justin Spivey or Spivey. I don't know how you pronounce it, but once upon a time, he played at Carrollton in that 8th grade team with C.J. Cipher and Kieris Miller and Quelly Fielder, and that was a very good, historic 8th grade team, but he now plays at Rome, and they're going to have to prepare for him because he's kind of an athlete playing running back and wide receiver. He probably also plays defensive back, but that's going to be a matchup to watch out for. It's also going to work. Let's see how Carrollton's defense let's see how their front seven does, because that's going to be key against Rome's offensive line. And Rome's offensive line is actually pretty big. I mean, they're not tiny at all. But with McPherson being a dual threat quarterback, that adds another thing in there. Can they contain him, or can they just get back there and he's just going to run all over him? We'll see. But both teams obviously have elite wide receivers. For Carrollton, you have your Mosley Zachary. For them, it's Collins Winston. And in special teams turnovers, I mean, it's going to be decisive. Who can force more turnovers and who can make who punt more, I think. Who can get on the board more than the other team is obviously going to win, but defense, I think defense is going to be a big part of this game for both teams. So with that being said, I think Carrollton advances to 3-0 on the season with a win. I think they win 42-23 on the road, and
Mason, that's a bigger spread than I thought. I thought you'd be within 10.
I think they hand Rome their second loss.
We may get some comments on that one.
We'll see.
Rome, I don't think they're happy about that, but if they follow us on social media, which I doubt that they do, but if they do, we welcome them, and we welcome your comments.
Right. Next, we'll talk about Central. They have their home opener finally, week 3 against Hiram. Now, Central, they've shown some balance. They dominated Spalding. They were very resilient against a strong Oxford team on the road. So now
that is going to be the place to be on Friday night if you're a Lions fan, because they had all this expectation in the energy, this excitement of them winning that game, bringing that back. Man, it's I hope that they have a good home opener.
But they're taking on a Hiram team that beat a much weaker Paulding County team. They actually they beat them pretty comfortably, I believe, at home. But then they went on the road taking on Eastside, and if you don't know anything about Eastside's a 4A school. They're around actually Central's level, I would say, but Eastside shut them down 41-0. So if a team that's close to Central's level is beating them 41-0, you can kind of see the theme here. So I think that's a red flag for Hiram, definitely. Key success for Central, obviously feed the Walton brothers. They're like Holtzclaw and Cipher. They're just a very good 1-2 punch. But then Jace Walton, he's a good, reliable running back 2 option, and he keeps those defenses honest. You're also going to need some efficient quarterback play. Gerald Harris, he's been excellent so far, 417 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns. But he did throw an interception. But with that being said, I mean, he has guys like Alanton Simmons, he has guys like Jake Ivester, and even their tight end Rhett Nelson to throw to. So this Central offense will be hard to slow down. 3, their defensive front control. Hiram, again, like I've said, they rely heavily on running back Dylan Maina. He has 136 rushing yards this season, but defensively as a linebacker, he also has 12 tackles. So
if you're doing 130 to 150 yards a game, you lock that down.
Yeah. And but Central's front seven, they got to clog those running lanes, and they got to force Carmichael. Because Caleb Carmichael, Hiram's quarterback, he's thrown 3 interceptions in 2 games, so hasn't made some good decisions so far. But they're going to need to force him into some tough throws, and then limit the turnovers and penalties. If you're Carrollton, you know a lot about penalties. Got to limit them. For Hiram, what they're going to need to do, they're obviously going to need to establish Dylan Maina early. Obviously, with those kinds of stats, he's a workhorse. So if you can get him keeping you out of those 3rd and long situations, that's going to be key. And defensively putting him into those 3rd and long situations. Protect Caleb Carmichael. Central's defensive front 7 are going to be all over Carmichael. So if you can protect him, then he can try to do what he needs to do, because he hasn't been protecting the ball this season, like I've already mentioned. So you got to protect him. I mean, he's completed 68% of passes, so it's not like he's not completing passes, but he's making too many more mistakes than he is getting in the end zone. But that offensive line is led by Julian Fishburne, who's actually a really pretty decent offensive lineman, actually. Got great size. They need to win at the defensive line. They got guys like Davion Jackson, Derek Walters, James Marshall. They're going to need to pressure Harris, but Harris, he's also a dual threat guy, so you got to be able to contain him as well as pressure him. But if they let the Walton brothers get going, I mean, it's going to be Central's going to control tempo for sure. And then take away the deep ball. They have multiple. Central has multiple wide receivers who can stretch the field. So when you got guys like Jamarcus Twine and Darius Anderson at defensive back, they're going to need to shut them down and make Central really have to just rely on the Walton brothers. But with that being said, I think the matchup edge, Central has more offensive firepower and they have a deeper roster of playmakers. I think Hiram's path to victory is shortening the game with defense and ball control. The coaching angle, I think if Central builds an early lead, Hiram really doesn't have the passing attack to play catch up. So I think if Hiram's defense forces turnovers, they can hang around. But the X factor for me is obviously going to be the Walton brothers because, really few teams in the entire state, or you could even argue in the entire country, have two D1 caliber running backs, especially ones that are brothers. So if they get rolling, Central's gonna dominate the time of possession. But I think Central's balance on offense and defense and their depth makes them the favorite. So I think Hiram will need a near perfect game. No turnovers, winning the time of possession. Limiting explosive plays. They're going to need to have that type of game to pull away an upset, and I just don't see it happening.
It's hard to limit those explosive plays, though. Walton, that's...
So give me the Central Lions in their home opener, advancing to 3-0 on the season with a 34-14 win.
All right, Lion fans, you heard that. Mason is predicting, of course, Lions, and I don't know why he wouldn't. So, all right, who do we got next?
Haralson County Rebels. Now, Haralson County, they've handled two very weak teams easily. Mount Pisgah Christian week 1, obviously this past week, got the win against Pike County, but their numbers are, I would say, inflated against bottom tier opposition. Greene County, who's their opponent, they lost 42-15 to Putnam County on the road, but I would say Putnam County is stronger than anyone Haralson County has even seen yet. So I think that makes Greene County's performance more credible than these Haralson County blowouts. And I love Haralson County, don't get me wrong, but you have to speak the cold, hard truth sometimes. Some key players for Haralson County, obviously, I'm just going to put athlete. I'm not even going to try to box him into one position. Athlete, Kip Boyd. Yeah, and I'll see if I put his stats in here. I'm sure I did. Yeah, I did. So we'll talk about him in a second. But he's.
I think it would be fun to interview some of these players. Maybe it was just a call in over the phone, and just for you to have the ability to talk with them, and you tell them what you think that you see out of them coming out this week ahead. On occasion, we that would be interesting to do that.
Right. Some keys to success, obviously, for Haralson County. This one, I like this one a lot. He's their most dynamic athlete, I think, for either team. So far this season, he has 334 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 68 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, and a 91-yard kick return touchdown, and this is only in 2 games so far.
Yeah, congratulations, Mr. Kemp. You have been putting up some great performances so far.
But like Jonas Walton, I think he's going to need at least 20 touches to really make an impact in this game. But he's one of those guys. He's a game breaker, and I think he can by himself just flip the outcome of the game or even the momentum of a game. Control the trenches. They have guys like Weston Baker. Also a guy I haven't mentioned yet, Jonathan Cheney, 6'5", 325. Walker Ward, Landon Singletary, etc. on the offensive line. Got to protect Paxton Ray and get Boyd able to run those lanes. Defensive discipline, Greene County has some athletes, so Haralson County's got to tackle well. Haralson County has the guys to do that, I think. Special teams edge, Boyd has already has a kick return touchdown like we mentioned, so Haralson, if they can flip the field position or score on special teams, it's going to give them a shot to pull the upset. I guess you could call it an upset. But for Greene County, establish the run with Trevez Gibson. I've already mentioned he's their primary playmaker, so that's going to be key for them. Quarterback efficiency, Landon Garrettson, he's got to manage the game. He has playmakers that we've already mentioned that can get it done, but he just can't afford any empty possessions because Kent Boyd's going to make sure he's going to get in that end zone. Win in the trenches, they have great size on that offensive line in terms of weight, not necessarily height. So if they can control the Rebels' defensive line, they'll dictate the tempo. And then limit Boyd's explosiveness, and this is really the number one key right here. I should have started off with it. Jalen Ruff, Denham Harris, those guys that are in the secondary for Greene County, they gotta contain them and they gotta prevent them, because if you're not going to do that on special teams, on defense, it doesn't matter. Kent Boyd, he's gonna carry that team to a win. But their game breaker factor, I think Haralson has the single most explosive player, maybe you could say, in this area.
Ooh.
That might,
Whoa.
you could say that's a hot take. You can say that
Whoa.
all you want, but I think he's one of, if not the single most explosive player.
I would agree with you there. I just don't know if it's bold enough to say that he's.
Well,
I mean,
you could say it's too early. You could say it's too early on in the season. You could say it's too early on in the season. You could say they haven't played anybody. But
I like that, Mason. I'm glad that you're actually recognizing that, though. Some of these ones that that have great implications. That going forward, they're going to need these players to have their best performances. But
I agree.
To start standing out among a very elite field here in West Georgia, to include him in that, okay, I like it.
Battle of the lines, I think both teams have legit size in the trenches, so the winner up front is most likely going to win this game. But the X factor, I think Green's, obviously, I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer. Greene County's ability to contain Boyd, I think if they hold him under 150 all-purpose yards, they win the game. They should win the game. But I think if he can break some explosive plays off, have 150 or more all-purpose yards, Haralson County can definitely steal this game. But I'm leaning more towards Greene County here. I think they look deeper and more balanced overall. But I think Haralson County, obviously, they have Kent Boyd, and that's really the difference maker here. And he's the type of player, again, who can swing the game.
Yeah, if
Greene
he's having
County
a big game, it
space.
just seems like the team normally follows you. It influences that a lot. I know they're looking to you for leadership. If that's their only key player, that could be tough. But if he's having an off night, but if he's having an on night, you can't stop him.
Well, with that being said, I have Haralson County getting their first loss of the season,
No,
28-20 on the road.
On.
I have them getting
Folks,
their
don't
first
start
loss.
throwing stuff at the TV if you're watching this by video on YouTube, or if breaking your phones or whatever you're listening to on audio.
Well, look, it's 28-20. It's not like I said they were going to blow them out.
It's close, but it's not.
28-20.
But I needed to go the other way around.
I have them losing 28-20 on the road.
We'll see what happens.
2-1.
The Monday's matchups with Mason. We'll see how that comes out. All right.
Well, I hope they prove me wrong.
Right.
Heard County, now this is an interesting one. They lost by 2 points on the road last year against this team. It's a team from North Carolina up in, I believe, western North Carolina, kind of near the tip where Georgia and South Carolina, all of them are. But Heard County's 2 big wins came against much weaker teams. Murphy handled a weaker Franklin High School from Franklin, North Carolina. They handled them by 13, so I think net profile points to a solid but not runaway Heard County win here. And I'll explain why. For keys to success, obviously Heard County lean on Tisdale's dual threat ability. He's the heart of the offense, not much to really say about that. Win the line of scrimmage. When you got guys like Jackson White and Max Lasser, amongst other guys, they can definitely, it's definitely possible. Spread the ball to playmakers. You got guys like Cofield, Moreland, even guys like Trip Kerbo. So they have multiple wide receiver threats to distribute to. And then defensive gap discipline. When you got a running back like Cameron Clem, they're physical, they're downhill, they're big runners. You got to wrap up and you can't miss tackles. And then for Murphy, establish the run. Murphy traditionally thrives when they can pound the rock. When you got a big guy like Cameron Clem running behind another big guy like Janthony Gooden, that sets the tone for sure. They're going to need to do that. Protect the quarterback because Heard County's front seven, they generate tackles for loss at a rate that you just can't imagine.
They're in the top.
Right, and so they're going to need to give them pass protection. Limited explosive plays. Tisdale has a knack for hitting chunk plays. So that secondary led by guys like Ryan Payne are going to keep everything in front and force long drives. And then you got to win special teams and field position.
That reminds me of that time I got sick one time. I had chunk plays. It was moving on.
That's nasty.
All right.
But for Murphy, they're traditionally a tough physical team with size on the line on both lines. So if they can control the clock and force a grinded out game, they'll have a shot. But Heard County, they've looked explosive and they've looked efficient on offense, while also featuring one of, if not the most disruptive front seven in all of 1A Division I. You could argue that they have the most disruptive. But I think if Tisdale gets into rhythm, if Heard County's defensive line controls the trenches, they could definitely swing strongly in the Braves' favor. So I like the Heard County Braves in this one. I think Heard County advances to 3-0 on the season, gets their get back from last season when they lost in a heartbreaker to Murphy on the road. So I like Heard County 31-21 at home.
Okay.
Next we have the Mount Zion Eagles. They're 2-0. Beat Chattahoochee County on the road week 1.
So the only teams that we've had here in West Georgia out of the 9 who lost their first games Anybody lose first and second games?
Villarica, they're the only ones.
We'll get to them.
Well, they have a bye week this week.
We're not putting them last because they're least. It just works out that way alphabetically.
Well, they also have a bye week, so we won't be talking about them this week.
Might be a good pause.
They're trying to get ready for us. They're trying to get ready for Central.
Yeah, okay.
So they need it.
Yes, they're going to need it.
Mount Zion, they're taking on Bethlehem Christian. Bethlehem Christian lost heavily to a strong John Millage, but they took care of Providence Christian. Mount Zion's wins came versus very weak opponents. Their shutouts look good, but the opposition was bottom tier. They beat.
Well, I think you were surprised how many points they gave up, though.
No, right? I was surprised how many points they tacked on to Ranburn. I think I would say I was surprised at how bad Ranburn was, I would say.
Okay.
But Bethlehem's tougher schedule so far gives them the edge.
Yeah, okay.
So they need it.
Yes, they're going to need it.
Mount Zion, they're taking on Bethlehem Christian. Bethlehem Christian lost heavily to a strong John Millage, but they took care of Providence Christian. Mount Zion's wins came versus very weak opponents. Their shutouts look good, but the opposition was bottom tier. They beat.
Well, I think you were surprised how many points they gave up, though.
No, right? I was surprised how many points they tacked on to Ranburn. I think I would say I was surprised at how bad Ranburn was, I would say.
Okay.
But Bethlehem's tougher schedule so far gives them the edge. Keys to success for the Mount Zion Eagles, quarterback efficiency. Now, according to Max Prep stats, Knox Israel is 1 for 8 for 8 yards. So he has struggled passing the ball, but he's active on defense, also plays linebacker. So he's got the offense, I don't know what they got to do. Maybe simplify some reads, lean on some quick throws.
Front line?
I don't know.
Okay.
But definitely going to need to have an efficient quarterback, because if you can't have that, you're never going to win any game, because you can't just you can't just be one-dimensional and rely on your running game. Defensive playmakers got Jaden Ackey, Amarion Dallas, those guys producing TFLs and turnovers, so they got to pressure that young quarterback of Bethlehem's, and they got to force mistakes. Ground game balance, Keziah Ackey, he's been explosive, 7 carries for 118 yards and a touchdown like we've mentioned. They're leaning on him more as a running back wide receiver hybrid, so I think that opens things up for Caleb Sims in the passing game. He's a wide receiver for Mount Zion. And then physicality in the trenches. Abram Morrow, Brady Denny, other guys on that offensive line and defensive line that they're going to need to control that line of scrimmage against Bethlehem's very big front on both sides of the ball. And then for Bethlehem Christian, leveraged dual threat quarterback. He had Gavin G, 84 yards passing, 95 yards rushing as a sophomore, 2 touchdowns. He's an effective runner. They got to emphasize some QB runs for him, maybe some RPOs. I like that RPO style of game. 2, running back depth, you got Joshua Douglas, Adian Grady. They combined for 140 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns this season, so they can definitely wear down that Mount Zion defense effectively. 3, defensive discipline with Cyan John, C.J. Peoples, Tucker Scoggins combining for over 20 tackles and several pass deflections. Their secondary, they got to limit those deep passes of Mount Zion, which, of course, if Knox Israel is playing like how the stats are indicating, there's not going to be many deep passes to really defend. And then the trench battle, you got Grant Goodman, who's 6'4", or I believe 6'4", 280. And then you got Carson Navarro, 6'3", 255. Those are 2 big boys on that offensive line, so they got to win in the trenches to help out a guy like Gavin G, who's a dual threat guy, or to help out those running backs and Douglas and Grady. But I think the turnovers are gonna decide this game. I think Mount Zion has some defenders who force turnovers. You got Bethlehem's defensive backs who are also active in forcing turnovers. So whoever wins the turnover battle, I think, is likely going to win this game. Quarterback contrast, obviously, Mount Zion's Knox Israel is more of a defensive-minded guy, being better at linebacker than he is a quarterback statistics-wise. But I think Bethlehem's Javin G is a dual threat he's a dual threat underclassman. So how each team protects their quarterback, how each team utilizes their quarterback, the style of plays that they're going with, it's definitely going to be decisive, because who can maximize whose strengths better. And then I think the matchup to watch here, though, Mount Zion's wide receivers against Bethlehem's defensive backs. I think if Mount Zion wins the battle, their offense becomes a lot more scary. But again, with the quarterback situation for Mount Zion, stats-wise, doesn't look like they're going to be much of a passing game, but I definitely think Bethlehem's defensive backs are better than Mount Zion's wide receivers, so that's going to be a challenge for them. But I still think this is going to be a close game. I think Bethlehem Christian wins. I think they win 27-20, and they hand the Mount Zion Eagles their first loss of the season.
So is this your
home.
second loss in the region that we're calling today? Or is that, 2, 3, 2?
I had Haralson County losing, and I have Mount Zion losing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now your game of the week.
Yes, the final game we're going to be covering, my game of the week, the Tryon Bulldogs traveling to Temple to take on the Temple Tigers. Tryon is...
I don't think you're going to give this one a third loss.
We'll see.
Ooh.
Well, no, we'll see. We'll see.
Little insider there.
No, we'll see. We'll see. Tryon's schedule so far has been much tougher than Temple's. Let's get that straight. They lost by 11 points to Gordon Lee, which is they shouldn't have lost to Gordon Lee, but it's still a respectable showing. And they handled Dade County easily. Temple's offense does look explosive. They scored 69 points against McNair, 63 points against Clarkston, but both of those came against very, very weak defenses. Their numbers are heavily inflated, so adjusting, I would say you have to adjust for schedule strength. Tryon obviously projects stronger despite Temple's gaudy stats. So start off with some keys to success. For Tryon, obviously you got to establish the passing game early. When you got a guy like Link Allen throwing to multiple athletic wide receivers and LeBrian Ludy, Bryson Roberts, Christian Henderson, they got to spread Temple's defense and attack vertically because Temple's defensive line is actually pretty good. I mean, they're pretty big and they're pretty good. Defensive discipline, Temple has, I guess you could say, 3 guys at running back who can break big plays. You got JoJo Jones, you got Hudson Nix, and you got Jaden McDaniel. So that
but is it a true 3-headed monster? Or
okay. I wouldn't say all that.
All right.
I guess that could be if they utilize it, but we'll see how they do. Temple's definitely more of a running team than they are a passing team. They're a very run-heavy team. But Tryon's front 7, they're anchored by Jeremiah Farmer and Jackson Woods, so they got to contain those 3 running backs. You got to protect Link Allen because if you don't, Serdario Ferguson, TJ Young, Jack Jordan, Marco Chandler, those defensive linemen of Temple are going to be all over you. You could even say Ryan Self and Dominic Alosi, those offensive linemen of Temple, that sometimes they play defensive side of the ball. They're going to be all over you if you can't protect them, and that's one thing you can't have. And then you got to capitalize on the turnovers. Temple's secondary is very opportunistic, so Tryon's got to protect the ball and just get it to their playmakers offensively. For Temple, they got to feed the 3-headed backfield. The 3-headed monster that is JoJo Jones, Hudson Nix, and Jaden McDaniel. JoJo Jones, 7 touchdowns in 2 games. You got Hudson Nix is more of a power runner, 6 foot 215. He's not like JoJo Jones. He's definitely more of a power runner. And then
he's like your satellite.
and then Jaden McDaniel's more of your versatile athlete. I would say JoJo Jones is probably the closest thing you can get to like just a true running back. McDaniel's more of an athlete. Obviously, Nick's, again, a power back. But they all 3 create matchup problems that'll keep their defense off balance. You got to win in the trenches, that big offensive line of theirs. You got Nicolosi Self. You even got a guy like Junior Presley, who I'm going to mention. They're going against a strong defensive line rotation with Corday Patterson. They're going along with a strong defensive line rotation in Corday Patterson, Serdario Ferguson, Marco Chandler. So they can definitely control the line of scrimmage offensive and defensively. Defensive playmaking, TJ Armstrong, Brian Bowman, those 2 younger defensive backs, they combined for 3 interceptions in just 2 games. So they're forcing a lot of turnovers, and I definitely could see them forcing Tryon into the same mistakes. And then Jackson Gribben and Brody Dempsey, they kind of have this 2-quarterback system going on as well. I wouldn't say it was at the same kind of level it is at Carrollton. But Jackson Gribben, Brody Dempsey, they've both been very efficient in the limited attempts they've had because obviously Temple's more of a running team. They're not a passing team. But I think if they can both keep Tryon honest with some timely completions, just getting it done, the run game will obviously flourish. And we've seen that in the past 2 games. But I think Tryon's going to lean more on their balanced and athletic skill players. I think Temple is more of a power run heavy team with big linemen and multiple backs. But I think the X factor here is going to be turnovers. I mean, I say this for every game, but I think this is what could decide this game. I think if Temple's defense can create takeaways with some of the guys we've talked about, they can definitely hang in this game. But I think if not, I think Tryon's overall athleticism and their tougher schedule edge will set them ahead. So I have Tryon handing...
I don't know if I like where you're going with this, Mason.
I have Tryon handing the Temple Tigers their first loss of the season, 31-20.
People are going to stop watching this podcast just because of that comment alone. We'll come back. It'll be just me and you next week. No one will want to tune into this after that prediction. I hope you're wrong, Mason.
I hope everyone wins. Well, obviously the Bremen-Bowden game, I can't have both of them win, but I hope everyone succeeds. But look, I have Tryon winning 31-20. I have Temple getting their first loss on the road.
Those two first games were high scores, but playing weaker teams, they're going to come in with a season.
But I think that Tryon is a better team than Temple, and I think that Temple will keep it close. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to get blown out here. They are at home as well. That has a lot to do with how they can do because they have that home field advantage. But Temple, I think this is the week that they prove that they're not really all that. They're in the top 20, maybe even the top 15. But I think this week, if they beat Tryon, they definitely belong in the top 10, and that's solidified. Ooh. But I think if they lose to Tryon, like I'm saying they will, I don't think I will be able to say they're top 10 anymore. I'd have to say they're at least that 14, 15
Jay
spot.
McDaniel's going to have a breakout game.
I'd love to see it.
He is going to take over, and that's going to be it.
Well, I'd love to see it, but as of right now, I don't think that's going to happen.
All right.
3 touchdowns max.
We finish with a bye week with Villarica, so they can get ready for Central. And
they have to go on.
There.
They have to go on the road at Central
yes.
too, so that's going to be tough for them.
That's correct. Well, Mason, I think on occasion it'd be interesting to feature some of the alumni from the area. Of course, we've got one of the biggest ones ever right now coming out of high school that is playing first year in college and playing your favorite team, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, but be hosting it up there in Colorado. And this is Juju. Now, I will not be starting as much as I'd love to see him be starting, but it looks like the quarterback to transfer from Liberty will be starting, according to Deion Sanders himself. So if you are upset about that, please take that up with Deion Sanders. Write him an email, whatever you got to do, though.
I think it's the right decision.
Probably so. I mean, obviously, you've got somebody coming in with a lot. 3 years behind him from Liberty.
Well, look, I don't think it's not gonna matter. Georgia Tech's gonna whoop him either way. So.
Woo! Well, I was listening to Locked In ACC yesterday, and they do not. They have Yellow Jackets winning. They do not have Buffs winning this, even though they're hosting it at home. That should be a good one as well. All right, so if you're not following us on social media, we would love for you to be able to see your reactions or your comments or your photos or videos that we'll share in future episodes on our Fan Zone section. And Mason, I look forward to all of the games, again, coming back on Monday so to hear your predictions. And with that, we always close this out by saying there is nothing like Football Fridays in West Georgia. We'll see you next time.